And hey guys, we're back for another episode of Real Talk Houston with Carlotta B. Today we have real estate tycoon, platinum real estate tycoon, Leisa Roberts. Welcome to the show, Leisa.
Hey, thank you, Carlotta. I appreciate you inviting me to be on the show.
So happy to have you today. So Leisa and I are actually corporate colleagues from back in the day. We started out in the oil and gas industry. So she's a real good friend of mine, and we go back quite a long way. So just want to talk to you a little bit today about the wonderful world of real estate and all the ins and outs of real estate. We want to talk about some of the myths that are out there. If there's anyone interested in buying or selling a property, we definitely want to capture that audience because there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of misconceptions about real estate. And a lot of times people are like, I don't know what to do, where do I start?
Start right here.
There you go. Start right here. Start right here, Leisa Roberts, everybody. So my first question to you is, let's get to know you just a little bit. Tell me a little bit about your background. What did you do before you got into real estate?
Okay, so most of my career has been with the oil and gas industry. And I've been a commercial person, and that's someone who is a deal broker. So the kinds of things that I've done is, believe it or not, I did the largest sale leaseback for the biggest building in the state of Alaska.
Awesome.
And that was a great experience. I've done a lot of traveling, audit programs, and other sort of things. And always on the side, I've done real estate.
Right. Okay, that's been one of your loves, I'm quite sure. What did you like most about your last career? Being in corporate America. I know I can tell my stories about being in corporate America, but what did you like most about corporate America, and what kind of made you decide to leave it behind and just dive into real estate?
Yeah, so corporate America gave you a sense of security for sure. You could get up, you go to work, you get paid every day, and there's a lot of security. But with that security comes boundaries. There's only so high you can go, and it's not determined by your level of work you put into it. It's determined by where you are in the corporation.
Correct.
And so after a while, I can remember my father used to always tell me that you're never going to get paid what you're worth as long as you're working for somebody else, because they need to get their profit.
Correct.
So that, after a while and many years in the oil and gas industry, it was like, I'm going to get out and do what I absolutely love, and that's real estate.
Okay, wonderful. Did you do any type of property flipping prior to getting into real estate as a realtor, or did you just dive straight in as a realtor? Did you own properties, personal properties?
Yeah, I won't go back into when I bought my very, very first property, but it's something that I certainly do encourage people to do, is look at a multiple unit property as your first property, because your renters can help you pay your mortgage. So I've owned real estate for, I'll just say, 20 plus years. And in the course of all that, I've done some flips, and I've learned some incredible things where you're watching the television shows and they're showing you what's going on with flips, and you're like, hey, this is a great idea. I'm going to throw some money at it and go and do a flip. And then you get there and realize that, you know, you have an artificial floor, and it's really the Titanic once you take up the plywood and stuff.
They make it look easy on the shows, right?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they don't show all of the corners and that you have to, you know, endure, and all the problems that exist. They show you the beginning, and then they show you the end, and just a little bit of what it takes to get there.
Exactly.
So it's a lot more to it than that.
Exactly.
So when you're doing those properties and flipping, do you run into a lot of issues, or have you had good luck with those properties, or have you had bad luck with those properties as far as running into unexpected problems?
So I think certainly the first big project I did here in Houston, which was over in the Heights area, I was surprised to find the level of damage there was to the foundation. And I did not have the foresight to understand that once you lift the house up, you're going to break all the pipes underneath that house as well. You're going to probably bust out a couple of windows. You're going to crack the brick. And so basically you end up reconstructing the entire home. So I would say that was not one of the best moments of my flipping experience, but one of the best learning moments.
Yeah.
And then there's other ones where you have just really basic hoarders, and you know, through the laws and stuff in the city, when you inherit those properties, those are a lot easier because it's really a cleanup job at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. It's the before and after that makes it a dynamic experience.
Okay, gotcha. Exciting. I love real estate. So relative to flipping, I know there's a lot of myths out there about how do I get funding. There's hard money, there's lending from regular financial institutions. So what are some of the myths around hard money and a regular institution, financial institution?
Yeah, so the first thing to think about hard money is that they're seeing the end value of the property. So you have to understand the marketplace and the cost of repair when you go seek hard money. The qualifications that are required to get hard money is quite simplistic. It's nowhere near the requirements of buying a personal property for yourself. You do have to report out on your progress. The interest rate is significantly higher generally. So right now you can probably get a 15-year mortgage, and of course it changes daily, hourly. But right now you could get it in a regular loan for 2.75%. A hard money loan typically is going to run you double digits, like 11%.
Okay.
And there's also a period of time, a duration that's needed. It's going to be like a year. And then once you've completed your project, you're going to flip it into a conventional loan or another type of loan situation. But I think that when people fear going into the hard money loan issues, it's not something to fear. That is the way to do a flip or any other type of work like that, is using someone else's money, securing that investment property to renovate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, that's good information because I know there's a lot of questions about hard money.
Yes.
So hopefully that clears it up a little bit for you guys out there that may be interested in pursuing a loan and trying to do some property flipping and some renovations. Learning a little bit about hard money. We can only talk about so much in this short time, but that information was very critical. So.
And if they need any more information, they can always give me a call.
That's right. And we'll make sure they have your information before you leave us today.
Most definitely.
And you've been a realtor for how long now? I know you've been in real estate for years, but
I've been a realtor since just a couple of years now. And the reason why I became a realtor is because after having invested in properties for myself, whether they were flips, investment properties, my personal homes, etc., I realized that realtors, we go beyond just showing you properties.
Yeah.
You want a realtor who knows the numbers.
Exactly.
You want a realtor who knows the market.
Right.
You want a realtor where if you are an investor who wants to do a flip, they can sit there and say, given the level of damage on this property, you're going to think about putting in an additional $50 a square foot.
Right.
And your realtor needs to know all of that because basically I identify the properties, go back and then investigate the properties before showing them to you. So they're all eligible candidates.
Okay. Yeah, it's good for the customer, the client, to be knowledgeable about what's going on and what they're getting into. Yeah. So relative to COVID, it's 2020 was the year, right?
Yes.
It took us all by storm, and COVID has thrown us all for a lot of flips. Were you impacted at all by COVID? And if so, how much were you impacted?
Well, it cost me a lot of money in booties and face masks and sanitizer.
Yes, yes.
And so, I mean, frankly, most people, when you were showing their homes, asked that you provide the protective equipment to bring folks into their homes.
Right.
But on a bigger scale, a lot of people did not want to list their homes and did not want to go shopping for homes because in fear of COVID.
Yes.
And the other impact is even now with buyers asking, has anybody in the house ever had COVID? And that is not something that has to be disclosed in real estate. So it does present a challenge even now.
Yeah. That's right, because if you're buying a home, you don't know who was there before in some cases.
Exactly.
You feel like you have to wipe down every single inch of the property. You don't know if someone,
I remember a family came by and the young man was drenched in perspiration. And I had to,
wow.
and I had to admit to myself, I thought,
Like,
you
oh
know,
my God.
as a general rule, we're not allowed to, they signed the I don't have COVID,
Disclaimer.
disclaimer. But realistically, you can't give them a blood test or a nasal swab right there on the scene. But I can honestly say my mask was double masked that day.
You would double down on the mask,
double down, yes.
Wow, yeah, that has to be tough. So when it comes to credit, that's another thing that people are totally concerned about. My credit. What kind of credit do I need to have to even consider buying a property? What is the threshold for your beacon score that will elevate your interest rate? If someone's credit is so bad that they need to do credit repair, and we have someone for credit repair, guys. If you guys need credit repair, we have an in-house credit repair person. So you can also reach out to us about that as well. You can send me an email on that, realtalkhoustonpodcast@gmail.com, and we can hook you guys up with credit repair as well. And but yeah, a lot of people are concerned about that. They're like, I don't know what to do. I can't buy a house. My credit is horrible. So advice for people that have credit that may not be up to par.
Okay, so when it comes to credit, as you know, it's a large range. You could be up to 850 or you could be down to 300.
Right.
And frankly, it depends on what's driving the credit.
Okay.
So let's say that your credit is not what it should be because you have medical bills. That's very different than having a credit issue because you've had a foreclosure. And when lenders look at it, they certainly take a look and say, what is the basis of the credit? So I would never disqualify myself based on credit.
Okay.
I would go talk to a professional. So generally when we have someone who's in the market, I've actually taken people who are looking to rent because they thought their credit was not good enough and said, hey, let you talk to a lender.
Okay.
And the lender can tell them, well, right now you can afford this. You would need to put this much down, and here's your interest rate. Credit's going to largely impact the interest rate you're going to pay.
Exactly. Right.
And there's nothing wrong with getting a home at a higher interest rate with the plan of refinancing it later.
Right.
Because I don't think house prices are going to be going down anytime soon. So
this is true.
Yeah, and so interest rates are only going to go up.
Right. So they can always purchase at a certain point if their credit is, say, for example, a 650. They can purchase the home and then repair their credit. And once their credit is at a higher level, they can get a lower interest rate. At that point, they can do a refi on their property.
Right. 100%. I think that when I think about the lower end of the credit, I would start at the level of 580.
Okay.
So 580 and above, you're in the talking zone.
Okay.
And so you don't have to be a 650. If you're 740 or above, you're exceptional credit. And most people don't have 740 and above.
Okay. Okay, but it is attainable.
Oh,
with a little bit of
definitely.
work, it's attainable. So.
Most definitely. Most people's credit can be repaired within a year if they have help. And so definitely with you having a credit repair organization, that's great.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely possible. Top 3 skills of a realtor, in your opinion, what would they be? What are the top 3 skills that a realtor need to possess in order to be a good and successful realtor?
So the number one skill I think a realtor should have is you need to know and understand people. So we listen more than we speak. 2 ears, 1 mouth, as they say.
Yes.
Because
yes.
when I'm looking for a property, let's say the property is $200,000. If the person's an investor versus someone who's buying it for themselves, if this investor wants to just use it as a rental, this person wants to live in there for 10 years, it's an entirely different piece of property.
Right.
And how far I'm willing to go with it are night and day. So first it's about listening, 2 ears, 1 mouth. It's number one.
Yes.
The second piece of it is know the market, know your numbers.
Yes.
If your realtor, and I hate to say this, but if your realtor has never purchased property themselves, I would dissuade you from using them. Because they need to understand what that contract means and how to move further and how how housing markets move.
Right.
You must know your numbers.
Yes.
That's number 2.
Yes.
And the third skill is negotiating. Because, I mean, something that's going on right now very quickly is the concept of you're not going to get a typical home at $200,000 for the asking price. Mm-hmm. You can do a multitude of things to secure that house. Mm-hmm. You could raise the asking price, which might exceed the appraised value, which means you're going to be out of more cash.
Okay, yeah.
Or you can offer to pay some of the closing costs. The net to the seller is the same.
Okay.
But now you're staying within that boundary of the appraised value.
Of the appraised value.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So there's
good.
a lot of things you can do.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, a lot of factors come into play. Yeah, I've had realtors in the past, and yeah, it was a bad experience. I've referred realtors. I'm sorry, I didn't use them personally, but I've referred realtors to other people in the past, and they came back with very bad reports. And so, sorry, but yeah, having those factors in place, it's like you, and I think it has a lot to do with liking what you do. The more you like what you do, you're very involved in what you do. And I think that plays to any jobs that we have. If when you love your job, it's not a job. You're doing what you love. You just happen to get financial perks from doing what you love.
Absolutely. I think that the biggest compliment you can give me is a compliment.
Exactly.
To sit there and say, 3 years from now, that's the realtor you're going to go to. And in fact, most of my business has come from word of mouth.
Yeah, referrals are huge.
I'm very proud to say that even this year, in this highly competitive seller's market, I've been able to secure homes for some clients where the appraised value came in higher than my offer price.
Than the offer price.
That comes from knowing the market.
Yes.
That comes from knowing the market.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have.
Yes, it is. Great problem for my clients
to have. That is wonderful, yes.
Yes.
So Texas is known as having this wonderful economical economy. We have a great economy here. People are moving here from California and New York, and they love the economy in Texas. So what do you think are the driving forces for Texas having such a great economy, and those other cities such as New York, California, having such an inflated cost? We can get 3,000 square feet here for the price of what we can get a studio apartment for in, for example, New York.
Well, I wish I had some great news for you, but I don't. And I'm not a fortune teller. I wish I was. If I could predict the future, I would certainly tell you what was going to happen. It's very simple, supply and demand. So if you think about it, just 20 years ago or even 30 years ago, the big cities in the U.S., and still are New York and California. So you've got, and especially in New York, you have a little bit of land area where everybody wants to live.
Right.
So therefore, you don't spread up. You spread out. You spread up.
You spread upward.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody's piled on top of each other.
Piled on top of everybody. LA, on the other hand, has a lot of land mass, but you had a lot of money there.
Yeah.
So you're driving the price up over there. Now let's put COVID into this mix.
Yes.
And it gets absolutely crazy here.
It gets crazy there.
So now you have COVID. People want to leave these big cities, and they want to come to Houston.
Yes.
So when they come to Houston, they're willing to pay more for their homes than the people who've been living here. And what does that do? It drives up the price of houses.
Drives up the price of properties.
So a lot of people are thinking that this is a temporary shift. In my mind, I don't think it's going to stay where it is right now, but I think that the price of houses, cost of housing in Texas is going to permanently change and go up. It's not going to be as bad as New York and California.
Right.
But remember, whenever you have somebody where if I'm used to paying $500 for a pair of shoes, and just because you're selling for $100 and there's only one pair of shoes, I'm gonna go all the way up to $400 on you because I'm like, I want that house, and if I was where I was before, I'm gonna pay $500 anyway.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I do think this might be more of a permanent shift than most people think.
So real estate values here in Texas are not going to be as good as it used to be because they're able to elevate those prices and still sell just as much.
Yeah, we're one of the fastest growing cities, Houston, in the United States.
Yes,
in
we
fact,
are.
we might be number 3 past Chicago. Forgive me, anybody from Chicago. But when that happens, you automatically are inflating the area you're in.
That's true.
And if I'm right, have me back next year. If I'm wrong, I won't be
I'll
back.
still have you back next year. I'll still have you back next year and we can talk about it. You know, remember a year ago when we said, you know, we can talk about that.
Oh, most definitely.
The real estate exam, that's also a big thing. A lot of people want to get into real estate. Well, they want to become a real estate agent, become a realtor, and they're totally afraid of taking the exam. They've heard horror stories about it. It's hard. I'm afraid I have to take it 5 or 6 times, and they kind of get a little bit derailed just from other people's stories. And it's never good to listen to other people's negative stories about what they done or didn't do because everybody is different. So if there's anybody out there and you're afraid of getting your real estate agent exam, taking the exam because of horror stories, do not let that sway you in that direction. Everyone's different. Study, 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 and prepare. So for you, you know, I'm going to ask, how many times did you take the exam? And in your opinion, what was the hardest part of the exam?
Okay, so I took the exam once and I left early. And in fact, I left so early, I just knew I failed it, to be honest. And as I was going in, being a numbers person, I was like, oh, please, I hope the majority of my test is numbers. And I did luck out. The majority of my test is numbers. Each test varies. I'm not very good at dates. And so they go back and ask you questions like, when was Fannie Mae established? And so then you have to remember history and what war was going on and things like that. Because housing, of course, runs the economy. But I would encourage people when it comes to the real estate exam, you know, a little punt from my son. My son last year, less than 6 months ago, he decided to go into real estate himself, and he has over $1 million of inventory under his belt that he has sold already, and it's less than 6 months. It's doing great. I actually held a mentorship program. That's one thing about COVID, from my home, and encouraged the folks who are working with us. One is in high school, in fact. To go through the champions and go through the schools. I think when it comes to real estate, it's best to, one, go to school. Would you know, if you wanted to be a brain surgeon, would you just go in and try cutting someone's brain?
And start operating on people? No.
Or would you choose to spend $1,000 and go to school? And if anyone wants a mentorship program, I'm open to that as well. Again, I am so proud of the kids who came through. You know, young adults, I should say. It is a great field. It is a field with independence, and you can decide how much you're going to make based on how much you want to work. This is a great opportunity. And I can't express enough, if anyone is even thinking about going into real estate, give me a call. Give me a call.
I've heard about your mentor program. It's wonderful. You do good work there. That's a blessing. So that's good.
Thank you. Thank you. Took advantage of COVID and stayed home and ran a school.
Exactly. That's good. Buyers versus sellers. Do you have a preference?
I would love a listing. If your grandmother, if your baby brother, anyone, I would love a listing. So listings require, basically, you set the house up and buyers come by and see it. Buyers, on the other hand, they have to look at, you know, 2 or 3 houses, really more like 10 or 12 houses.
Yes, so true.
And every house you start looking at, you know, they decide what's critical and what's not. And so, I mean, I love them both. Because there's nothing better than when you get a buyer what they don't think they can afford. And you just feel like you've given someone the ultimate Christmas gift. It's just fabulous.
They're so happy.
But buyers are a lot of work. And I work largely with buyers right now.
Definitely looking for a listing for some sellers, right?
Yes, sell.
Welcome some sellers.
I promise you, I'll get you another home.
Awesome. So, since you've become an actual realtor, What do you have any horror stories to share? Has anything, what is your best moments and your worst moments of being a realtor? What has happened?
Okay.
What can
So clearly
you
the
share?
best moments are being able to secure homes with equity built in. Whenever I
Yes.
can beat that appraisal, I exceed the asking price, still land the deal, and the appraisal comes in higher, and I can look at my client and say, I just gave you that money.
You did.
You can go back on the market tomorrow and get more for your house than you paid
Than
for
your
it.
value, yes.
You can pay for your real estate commission.
Compounded equity.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
those are, I cannot express the joy when I deliver that.
Yes.
I think the
yes,
toughest moments though are moments where you're not able to get the contract. And a lot of times that happens because people are still in a space where you have multiple offers, and in their mind that means that the seller is just going to pick them for some unknown reason.
Yeah.
And in this market today, generally, especially if you're in that range around that anything under 200 up to maybe 220, you're competing against investors. And you're not going to get it for the listing price. And you're not going to get it if you ask me to ask the seller to paint the floors hot pink, you know, because the sellers are going to do absolutely nothing at this point. And so I am struggling with that a little bit and getting people's arms around the fact that you're not asking the sellers for anything nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Good information. Good information there. Having a deep professional network, do you find that to be important to obtaining business, or what are your main factors besides referrals for obtaining customers and clients?
Well, and when I first started in the business with Keller Williams, they said start with your contacts in your phone.
Your immediate contacts.
Your
yes.
immediate contacts in your phone. And I thought, that's absolutely ridiculous. You know, most people I know, they've had a full career, they've retired, etc. Well, what's interesting is I can remember my very first client, and she ended up changing her mind, but my first client was the child of some ex-coworkers of mine who happened to be in London.
Okay.
And they knew me as a commercial person. And so then they're like, oh, we're going to put in $400,000 for my daughter to buy this house. Can you be her realtor? Because they knew that I knew the numbers and I knew the market.
Right.
So my prior colleagues are certainly good sources. The other good source is actually a good friend in Alaska where people are moving over here. A lot of my clients come from people who I've already known. I'd say 30% come from people I've known.
Okay.
And the other 70% came from, I was actually working with someone else.
Okay.
And they referred me to someone else. So I have a lady who I never met her a day in her life. Her and her husband needed to sell their house, buy a new house.
Okay.
Started working with them, and every client is worth $1 million to me.
Yeah.
Every single one. Because this is the biggest purchase most people are going to make.
Exactly, it is.
And started working with her. She was like, you're great. My daughter's been talking about selling her house. So we went in and did her daughter a sell and rebuy. Then the daughter knew someone's mother who was going to have a life-changing event, and that was a sell and rebuy.
Okay.
And so if you're thinking about all of this has happened in the last 4 months with these three families.
Exactly.
And so if you go into it and recognize that this is the most important decision people are going to make, it can be very emotional.
Yes, that is so true. Right.
Word of mouth gets you where you need to be.
Yeah. That is so true. Yeah. Referral, I think that's been one of the biggest factors in all businesses. Referral. Referral.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, anyone interested in being a realtor, you want to be in Leisa's mentor program, you want to learn about the world of real estate, you want to list a property, you want to sell a property,
I want to
Leisa is
sell
the
your
girl.
property.
Reach out to Leisa. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to share your contact information or your email, your website, whatever you want to share with our audience.
Okay, great. My name is Leisa, Leisa. Last name is Roberts at kw.com. Leisa Roberts at kw.com, or reach out to Carlotta and she can link you back into me.
Definitely.
Just give me a ping. I will always find time to help you. I have other folks who are working with me as well. We can't wait to get you into a new home and start your investment life.
Yes, wonderful. Okay, guys, so thanks again for being here with us today. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you for having me,
You guys,
boss lady.
go follow me on IG at Realtor Houston. I'm also on Instagram, and we will see you on the next segment. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, boss lady.